Welcome back to Morning Express. It is time for the way it is. We're discussing the big stories. My panel this morning, Senator Mombasa County Hassan Omar on my extreme left. Thank you for joining us. It's good to see you after a long time as well.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah.
You're looking great.
Thank you. Kimani Wamatangi, who's a Kiambu Senator, also with us. Simba Arati, Dagoretti North Member of Parliament, and Ambrose Weda, who's a lawyer. We thank you for coming to Morning Express on this early Monday morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope you're all keeping well. Let's begin with the state of the economy, because that definitely dominating news headlines for a couple of weeks now. The president, quote-unquote, breaking his silence on the issue yesterday. According to him, all is okay. That is what he said, criticized what he says are the critics, and saying they should continue talking, but as far as he's concerned, things are on track. However, Rotich, who's the CS Treasury, says these are turbulent times. Arati, I will begin with you. Is it that bad, or really are we exaggerating a situation that could be worse?
No, I'm sorry to say this, that I think the president is asleep. And given that he's asleep, I don't know where he's coming from. Indeed, things are bad. And that is the truth of the matter. Is that when we're seeing what is going on, including even Parliament the other day, they brought in items to be more taxed. Therefore, it is an indication. And the CS himself has indicated that indeed we are in a problem. There is a crunch in the economy. And these are desperate times. The president should indeed come out, stop the thumb chesting, which they have been doing over and over the time, for the country to be back on its track. Otherwise, things as they stand now, this is a failed economy led by the president, and I believe he's also a failed president. Right. As the things start.
Senator, over time?
Yeah.
Failed economy, vice president?
Well, I think the essence of the debate, and I want first to begin by saying that that this is a debate that we must face with a lot of sobriety, because the debate about the economy, about the well-being and welfare of Kenyans is not a political debate, and it also requires one who is people to be well informed on what's happening. And I think when the president was saying that that all is well, he was speaking in a long-term sense, and because the situation as it is that if one tries to assess the day-to-day state of the economy, one can get alarmed. But that alarm would be triggered by probably failure to understand the long-term strategy that has caused that. And as has been said severally, one, let's be frank and fair and honest and say that this is a situation that has been prevailing for the last few months, not in the last 1 year. And it's a situation that we got in because of a combination of factors, economic factors. And I think, as the CS was explaining, in the immediate, one of the greatest contributors to this is the international economy itself. You know, what's been happening outside Kenya's boundaries. Right. And because we are a part of the global economy, when trends, when events occur in the global arena, which affect the entire economy, then certainly we have to be affected.
There are also decisions that were made here at home. Yes, there are those external factors, but then you must concede. There's also decisions that were taken here that have gotten us to this situation.
That's what I was going to go to.
Right.
But certainly, yes, there are a few decisions that have been taken here at home that in the immediate, and I want to draw a simple comparison. See, if today you wanted to invest in a certain business or venture, and it requires you to plan, strategize, and probably take a loan to invest in that venture. If you assess your situation at that particular time, that very day, then you would be operating in a situation that we will not call very good, because you'd be in debt. But if the investment is supposed to, in the long term, put you in a vantage position, reduce and improve your long-term position, then it's a good sense. And I think that's what we are looking at today.
Right, okay.
There are decisions which have been made, for example, in investing a lot of our money in the energy sector, in the infrastructure sector, which have affected the economy.
All right, I want to bring this to Senator Omar, because the leader of majority, Aden Duale, wrote a piece yesterday. It was in the Standard, and you've talked about Alam Wamatangi, and he was talking about some of the sentiments that have been made by the leader of CORD, Odinga. He talked about the number of economies that are performing way better than Kenya, and Raila had in the past given a number of economies and the percentages in which they're performing. And he now, according to his article, talked of the World Economic Outlook 2015, poking holes into every single one of what Raila had talked about, in essence saying the opposition is just shouting out numbers, shouting about a situation that is not as bad as it is, that alarm shouldn't be caused even if there is this situation right now.
You know, there's nothing as hard as making a debate, an argument against the obvious, arguing against common sense. The common sense of the Kenyan people is that inflation is on the high. Something caused this inflation. The banks, the interest rates have almost skyrocketed to about over 20%, so making borrowing almost untenable. That the dollar the Kenya shilling has lost value. So that's common sense. It's even obvious.
But to this question, does it then say we don't?
So what happens? But the truth is, Raila did make this, or the CORD fraternity did make this economic outlook that we're overborrowing. The other day when there was a cash crunch, Rotich came to Parliament and was being told, why are you not releasing the tranches to the devolved systems, to everything, and said we had no money. Why don't you have no money? Because last month we had to pay for loans. Why did you have to pay for loans? Why was there no proper planning? You know, all these loans matured, banks refused to defer the repayment. That's an obvious statement of fact. And when these trends emerge, you as a nation, you have to forecast. You can't tell me just these things also happened all of a sudden. There were trends, there were trajectories that were happening. So a country that's why everybody's telling you cut down on some of the infrastructure investments, so that you rationalize the investment portfolio, so that you can have a bit more money to diversify to other areas of the economy. So I think these are things that are of common sense. They don't even need you to be an economist to be able to internalize these issues. So whether the figures, whatever the figures, where is the Eurobond? How come figures don't add up? Writers are writing, Jainti Kisera is writing, Mutuma Madhi is writing, media is asking the hard questions. You then go and publish an advert to showing us some graphs. Just explain it to layman's language. What does those graphs mean? So that we are able to internalize the situation, because you're talking to a population that is extremely critical and also very educated. Everybody is saying there's something amiss. Everybody is saying there's something wrong. It is not possible that it is only Jubilee functionaries who are saying that there is something right. Economic actors within the Institute for Economic Affairs, the World Bank, every major economic institution that has a certain authority on matters economy. Right. And then Wamatangi here comes and disputes all those facts. I mean, it's sad.
What do you make? Let's listen to Weda, and then we'll come to you.
I think the effect of being a salary nation is now slowly manifesting itself. We're spending the bulk of our money in salaries and recurrent expenditures and paying loans. I understand we collect about 1.3 trillion, out of which 1.2 goes into recurrent expenditure, salaries and paying loans, with very little investment. The investments so far are not so much. But so when the president says...
They're capital intensive, and there have been concerns. Yes, but when you spend so much on, yes, they will bring and benefit Kenyans in the future, but what about now and the needs of common Mwananchi today? Because
actually, let me just say, the loans being paid, not the ones which are borrowed by President Uhuru's Jubilee administration. These were borrowed long before. Some were borrowed when Senator Omar was in school. It was used to pay his school fees. I think in the long run our economy is good, as the President is saying, but there are certain things where we have missed. I think the man at the Treasury has missed a few things which he needs to get to. One, he did not plan the effect of terrorism that actually grounded tourism, and therefore bulk of money coming as foreign exchange went under. He did not take into account the effect of the war in Somalia, the long-term effect, and then plan for it. He needs to do so. Then we did not take into account the total cost of devolution the devolved funds going down to the counties. Again, that we did not take into account. Then I think the noise about corruption, I'm beginning to think that there are places where something is not right. If there is so much noise about corruption at Sony Sugar, where ahead, actually I think it is time the president should ask me, why you? Because various sectors of the economy, you find here, you find there, you find there, and I'm also beginning to believe that there is fire, because there's too much smoke going around, and people are in charge are busy defending.
So what do you see as being the problem from where you sit?
There is a disconnect. The treasury is not looking at certain things properly. And then there is also the effect of corruption.
There's an article that's criticizing members of parliament because you vetted the new CBK boss, and this question of the missing millions of Eurobond and being in the COB report, that you did not catch that as parliament or the team that was vetting him. During the vetting, that it was all about sideshows at the time.
I don't want to agree with those who are saying that, because what happens is that the gentleman at the central bank has just come in. Another thing is that, you know very well, is that what has been happening in central bank, we must get our own to run that institution. That's not the problem.
Our own being?
You know, the people who has to sing to the tune of either siphoning out the money or have to cover up in terms of when they are stealing.
So are you saying the new CBK boss has been taken there to cover up, to help siphon money?
The essence, of course, what we'll read from there is that when, be it that there were so many other Kenyans who could lead a central bank, as we've been asking ourselves that why is it that the government or the president says it's necessary that he has to bring a certain clique of people into central bank to run the central bank. What is it all about? We've been asking this question of.
Didn't the National Assembly vet this?
That's true,
man?
But the other thing, you spoke of my colleague Duale, the likes of Yakina Duale, when we have them in that parliament, when they abuse the numbers, what do you expect? Even if you will say no, they abuse the numbers.
Try to say no?
We did, and we did. Yeah, I did personally, and not.
And you are saying no based on what? You did not feel he was competent, or what?
One thing is that we believe that this should have been also given a wider room, other Kenyans to come in to bring the expertise in terms of running central bank. But what is happening? What the trend that you have seen? The people who have been brought in there, it's not in terms of, it's not only that clique of people, but the people who have gone to school. Kenyans have gone to school. Therefore, what you have seen is just
so do you think that's part of what has gotten us here?
Precisely. Because they could not, one is that they could not account properly. When you're talking about, my brother here, Matangi, is talking of being, it's not politics. I'm asking myself, is that if it's not politics, we're talking of 144 billion Kenya shillings, which is lost. It's until last week, Nairobi Stock Exchange, we're talking of, they lost 60 billion in a span of this year alone. We have lost 530 billion Kenya shillings.
How?
Through the Eurobond. We're talking about through the Eurobond.
How did we lose that money?
And this is the money that you have lost through the market value.
Is there evidence of that?
There is.
Explain how.
There is.
He's posing to explain why before we come to Senator briefly.
I don't want to explain that how we have lost it because one thing.
You just know we've lost.
No. We have lost money. Okay. We have lost it. We have lost, and here I want to be particular because we're talking about the economy of the country.
Okay.
We're not talking about who is Wenda, who is Arati, who is Omar.
Okay, let me take this to Senator Wamatangi because as you've heard, the Mheshimiwa Arati says the CBK, the people who are brought in after every other term are people that are being brought with an agenda, an ulterior one.
No, well, with due respect to my colleague, Simbarati, Honorable, I don't think he's got his facts right. You know, as far as the allegations he's making are concerned, and the statements that he's trying to make. And like I said, I want to insist on one thing, that when we talk about the economy, we must be sober. We must tell Kenyans precisely what is happening. You see, when Senator Omar was speaking, for example, there's some facts which we must explain to Kenyans, which we must show them precisely. This is what happened. For example, on the question of why did we pay debts and default on sending money to counties, we know that in good planning, the IMF recommended to Kenya, to the Treasury, that because we have a big public debt, it makes good economic sense to pay debts first. Because if you let debts accumulate and you don't pay them, and you wait for the debtors to come and knock on your door, by the time you're paying, the interest you'll be paying on those debts is way beyond what you're saving. And so, the advisory was first pay the debts before you venture into recurrent expenditure. After you've paid off the debts, then go and spend the rest of the money later. And you see, after those debts were paid, the idea here is to ensure that we sustain or retain the public debt at manageable levels. Now, secondly, when those debts have been paid, you've seen in the last 2 weeks, actually in yesterday's paper and the day before yesterday, you saw a publication from Treasury stating all the tranches of disbursements which have been done to the counties after the payments have been made. And so, like I've said, when we look at where we are as a country, this particular time, the state of our economy right now, if we look at it on the today issue, we may get sensitized, we may get alarmed that we are not going in the right direction. The truth of the matter is that in the long term, in the wider picture, we are quite okay. We should be able to...
We are quite okay, but the CS, according to the report on the front page of the Standard today, is talking about tougher times. Taxation on various products is going higher.
Yes, this bill came to the National Assembly. It was debated in the National Assembly, and it was passed by the National Assembly to levy taxes on particular items, like cigarettes, like beer. But let me make my point.
When opposition walked out in disagreement, because they knew you had the numbers, so no matter what they said, they'd not be able to.
Let me make my point. Sophie. If you look at the items, for example, other than probably the cars and borders, taxes increased on beer or on low-end cigarettes, those are not necessarily the day-to-day common person's consumable items. It's not a levy on milk. It is not an extra levy on unga. And so those are luxury items other than the cheaper cars and the borders which the normal money uses.
All right.
And remember, there was an acknowledgement from the Kenya Revenue Authority that there was a gap in collection of taxes, which probably, from my thinking, I attribute probably to introduction of new systems, for example, like the iTax system, which people had not really understood and warmed up to.
Okay.
And I think, a combination of those issues are the ones which have brought the immediate situation out.
Senator Hassan, what do we do from here? Where do we need to move from where you sit?
First and foremost, I think it's very important to understand what somebody's saying before you start to make a whole debate, arguments against it. I did not say we don't pay our loans. I only was talking about what the CS talked about, the crunch. And I know that prioritization in debt repayment is good economics. Secondly, I want to disagree to a certain extent with my brother Rati. I personally have scrutinized the Dr. Patrick Njoroge. I think he's an extraordinary guy. I want to give him the confidence necessary that he can spur things around. If you look at the decisions he has taken since he became CBK governor, very astute financial decisions. In fact, I've had people saying, oh, you don't run the Central Bank of Kenya like the Bank of England. We need to run it like the Bank of England. We need to have the discipline in it. We need to have the culture in it. He says, oh, he was told print 50 billion. He says, I'm not going to print money first. Give me what you had. These funny banks, he's gone heavy on them. I think he's done everything so far that looks to comply by the book. And I believe at this point in time, he's the best person who could have gotten in the circumstances to stand tall against, economic pundits who want to ruin us totally. So I think in fact, I have, in terms of the galaxy of economic actors that we have in our economy right now, my only faith still is possibly in him, in the sense that he can do things around. I think moving forward, we've suggested, first and foremost, I liked the way my brother Ambrose tried to talk about corruption in a very veiled way, end the corruption. He was trying to say that, he says there's smoke, and so there might be fire. There is fire, my brother. I think we need to, I think every other day today we are reading about Grand Scam. It's a youth enterprise fund. You
but how do we do that, Omar? Because we keep talking about ending corruption.
I think what happens is, first and foremost, I think the agencies in charge of corruption have to do a little more. I think they should not. We tell them there are so many big things that have been stolen. All they do is to go and charge area for a bounce check some few months back. Take the former transport secretary for something that were for some variations, and so we need them to go big on this. And it's not the only agency that is supposed to investigate corruption. There's a false notion. The CID can also take over corruption. I think they are fairly overwhelmed, so they need to structure themselves in a manner as to have a specialized mechanism in terms of how they can investigate corruption. And we need to see a lot of the sacred cows being sacrificed now. And we need to see a lot more, agility for the president to crack the whip even harder. He tried it during the State of the Nation. Nothing came of it so far. So we need to see a lot more robust action. So corruption is one. But I think from simple economics is cut on the non-priority areas that of spending, so that we can be able to save money. This is even, if you have a salary, salary or economics is about planning on scarce resources. We have scarce resources. On scarce resources, you are hit at home. You start saying, what don't you need? So you cut down on the yogurt and a few other things that might be luxury for the time being, so that you focus on priority spending, and size down or suspend some of the major infrastructure projects. It's the same thing we do even in life. You find that you're having a cash crunch, you stop the construction briefly so that you can give it some time for you to rebuild your capital.
Recover.
It's very basic economics.
Let's move on to the KCSE examinations that are ongoing, and the leaks that have been witnessed in the recent past have been described as some of the biggest in Kenya's history. We've seen teachers, students, police officers arrested. And now there are those who are calling to abolish, the national examinations. Some are calling for a change in syllabus. First, to you, MP Arati, do you see this, as some have claimed, is a backlash from teachers because they did not get their way when there was a pay standoff?
Want to just think out of it it could have not been as a result of the strike. Indeed, it is a system also which has failed. It's a system which has failed, and this system we need to check properly. And the one thing, if indeed this country, as I say, the only person who would have saved this country from its own problem is Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. Because indeed, he could have had everything. He could have had everything, but then he has decided every section, every institution, he has failed it bit by bit, and then we are sitting back.
So link that for me with the exam cheating and leakages.
With exams, because of his system, his government. We can't sit back and wait and blame another person. We are saying, if us, and I want to point it out. And
independent organizations, NEC, is it?
That is it, but there is the head there up there. There is a head up there who is the president. The president is in charge of the CSs down the line, and the moral actually about corruption is the corruption which you are seeing from the top, which is going down even to the common askari, just a police officer getting a bribe and leaking that exam to the students. Therefore, the corruption that we're watching around, playing around, I want to put it clear, is that it's the government, and the government failed, and that is Uhuru Kenyatta, not another person who has failed.
What do you're shaking your head? What do you
the biggest tragedy in this country, for now, what Kenyans should know, the biggest tragedy, they have so many MPs, but very few have ideas about government, about how things should be improved. Like Simbarati here, everything Uhuru, every corner Uhuru. It's not, it's shocking. Exams in this country, we will continue to have these leaks. My view is this: we have placed a premium on examinations. It is what is given as a ticket to good life, high life. So people will go into their graves trying to pass exams. That is a fact. So everybody will pay a premium to leak the exam. So the way forward,
support the proposal to
the
abolish.
proposal here would be, you must have a standard of sharing resources. You must have a way of saying you are better, you are slightly better. The Examination Council has continued to live in the past when there have been tremendous technological changes. For instance, today you just do a photograph and then you put it on WhatsApp and you send to your friends. 1 minute. Making leakage a matter of seconds. What they should think about, in my view, as also a teacher, is the examination should be more of
continuous assessment?
No, not continuous assessment. At higher level, we do what is called open book. You're allowed to come with books. But you're allowed, you can come with the books, but whatever you express comes from your mind, from your thinking. That makes it difficult for even if you got the exams, if you have no idea. I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, if you are given the poem we are doing for literature, paper 1, even if you are given a week before, if you are destined to fail, you will definitely fail even with the exam.
So a change in the manner in which you examine.
Yes, actually a change in the content so that it is not more about facts, but more about what you give out, interpretation and application.
Okay.
Then those who are able, it is the NEC which needs to change, not the people.
Do you agree with that, Senator?
I think they should have appointed you to the Kenya National Examination Council. Trust me. Rather than so, I agree with you totally. The manner of examination in this country has continued to be a cake. A lot of countries have adopted that open book. It's how you apply it. It's how you can carry your calculator, you can carry your books. It's application of knowledge. And in fact, that's what is innovative. That's what innovation is. But we encourage a trend where you cram.
Yeah.
And then you go for that 1 hour and reproduce. Is it 1 hour? Is it 2 hours? Reproduce everything, and then this all this panic. That's why I think we're in the system that we are in. But I say what happens is we must look at this also broadly from what again, whether I said in once or twice in this show. I don't know whether how passionately he follows it up on. He says there's some decline across the spectrums of our society. The values have gone down, where you teach your kid who is in high school that it is okay to cheat. I mean, that's immoral from the parenting point of view to the societal point of view. How does your parent steal for you a paper, man? I'm looking at it in that way regard. So maybe that's the failing of them in the church. That's the failing in the mosque, because I saw somebody saying even now churches have been caught up in a web of corruption, and these type of things. And I think it's a whole entire value system that needs overhaul. And maybe a rethink of the manner. Of how we carry out our national examinations. There should not be this cutthroat, reproduction. What did Rotich say about massive tax hikes? And then you start thinking about everything that was written in that chapter.
Senator Wamatangi, we've heard time and again the unions call for the sacking of the CS Education. They're saying that he simply just doesn't know how to handle the issues in the education ministry. Is that where to begin?
Sophie, let me first comment on the question of corruption, because
our time is really running out. We really need to move on.
Whether it is in the Ministry of Education, whether it's about exams leakage, whether it's about money, corruption can bring down this country to its knees. And the problem we've had is that we've branded corruption as a them issue, not our issue. And so you find all the time we want to say that unless he stops corruption, unless they stop corruption, not unless we, and that's the issue. And we need to stop this categorizing of corruption, that there is grand corruption which is very bad and there is an okay corruption which is
societal
for the small.
that needs to
so
be
we have to deal with this as a country. And on the issue of the exam leakage and Minister of Education, I must say straight to them that they have to get their act right. There is no way that this country can condone or continue on that path. And what I would want to say especially to the Minister and the Minister of Education for that matter is that, you know, Kenyans now have joined the global market space in competing even in the education arena. I mean, I've met so many Kenyans in the diaspora who, when they graduate in Kenya and go out there, seeking an opportunity that to be employed, they are asked what is the quality of education in Kenya. And you find that most of the times they are forced to go and repeat courses they took here. Some countries just don't recognize our degrees. Some others will question our system of education. And for example, if we allow this to go into the mindset of the global education arena, that our system of education is corrupt, then we're doing ourselves a lot of injustice. And I believe that it is a high time, whether we are using the 844 system, whether we are going to introduce a new system to ensure that exams leakage, correlation and cohesion between the minister and all the actors within the education sector, that is the unions, the Teacher Service Commission, KNEC, they have to be in flow. They have to act in concert. They have to have the best interest of this country. The kids that we're taking to school, our graduates who are coming from the university at heart, that must be what they're looking at to ensure that we have got a good education system. And
as we move on to another topic, I'll start with you, Senator, because your governor is now on the spotlight over some of the remarks he made the other day. Hate speech, insightful sentiments across the board we have seen in the recent past. And the Chief Justice the other day just warning that 2017 we risk violence if we continue with this kind of trend in terms of what we are saying and corruption as well. What did you make of what was said? And also generally, the politicians just appear to, you know, run amok when it comes to what they say.
I think it's very unfortunate all across the board. I mean, and I've said this, I want to say it again, that there is no question of who I said this or I'm doing this on behalf of a community or people. Leaders must take responsibility. And when one makes utterances that go against the national grain of cohesion, they must take individual responsibility. And I'm one of those who are saying we must play and stand the part. We can no longer afford to do what leaders are doing, just speaking recklessly in a country that has come from the chaos of 2007 and 2008, and we have had this space to rebuild this country into a more cohesive country. And you know, and this is across the board. I want to say this clearly. You know, I was shocked, I have to say this, to see that the other day when one George Aladwa went to Kibera and made utterances that are criminal. Immediately when the leader of CORD arrived in the country, he seemed to endorse those remarks in a meeting and saying that it was okay. That is completely unfortunate. It is unbelievable of a leader of his stature. And I want to finalize by saying that unless especially the organs that we have entrusted in taking action prove to this country that indeed you cannot get away with those kind of remarks, that you cannot get away with planting that kind of seed in the country, then we are going the wrong way.
All right. Arati, he talks about personal responsibility and brings in the issue of Odinga going to be, quote-unquote, in solidarity, as was claimed and reported, with Aladwa at the time. Was that right? Was that a right message he was sending?
I want to agree to it, you know, with what he has said to some extent, and you know, don't agree with him in part of what he's talking about. Because what happens is that indeed, this country belongs to all of us as Kenyans, and we need to take personal responsibility in terms on how we're going to address others, because all of us, nobody is sent to be born in one region or other. But then I want to believe strongly the message that Alado, we're talking about Alado, yes, he would have gotten off the cuff. But what we are insisting is that the systems towards next election, it must be seen and it must be conducted in a manner suggesting that the one who has won the election must be given his rightful position. We don't expect we prepare for football match, we go into the field, then we find out that we are in rugby.
But we're talking about utterances and what is being said across the board, whether it's in government or out of government, and really we do not see action that makes people, be scared to be able to do this kind of thing.
The only thing we must, all of us, condemn is this attitude of people believing that we have to incite people to fight, and there was no incitement, but there is a warning. Today even I want to put it very clear that things will not be normal if election every time is going to be stolen, as it has been.
So there's hate speech and incitement because of stealing of elections?
We're not going to entertain hate speech at any given time. But we're saying, it depends who is getting the message. Wamatangi will always, because I respect him so much, and I like the way he puts these things, is that, but because in Jubilee he has to get the support on the Jubilee side, he has any comment I'll make. I've just said Uhuru is failed. My brother here was kind of, no, Arad doesn't know what he's talking about. What are you thinking? The president is naked. It's important. If you love the president, you must tell him that. But then what we're talking about is that what the court leader is talking about is that we are not going to accept another rigged election. And we stand for
and
that.
So we can say anything because we're not going to accept it.
When we are saying that we're not going to accept and rig the election, that's not hate speech.
All right, let me bring this to you, Wada, because is it the impunity, the fact that these people know they can say whatever and they'll go apologize and it will be okay tomorrow? Is it what is getting Kenya to sink to these levels?
I think it is, my view, it is impunity. Impunity, ignorance, and some element of sickness. Some people, because words are not paid for, when they open their mouth and they see a crowd, they just talk freelance. And then we have leaders who can't conceptualize basic things, like Arati here does not even understand what is being said about these sentences. When you see Kafogo down there talking, and you see Aladwa there, and you see Kuria there, and you see Duale there, they talk like they are mad people. And it doesn't matter whether it's your father or brother. What they are doing is bad for this country. And if Honorable Raila Odinga endorses that, I can only excuse him because of advanced age, but I know he would not tolerate such clangor where people just incite others. This country is still fragile. People can still fight. People can still kill each other. So as we talk as a leader, and they should be people should take responsibility. Responsibility here means people should be arrested, they should be taken in, and then prosecuted.
Right.
Whether they are Ladwas or Kavogos or who, this country is not for them to just talk anyhow.
All right. Do you share these concerns of the CJ?
The fact that I think the CJ just said it as it is. I think being a neutral arbiter in this whole matter, I think it is easier to look at it from that point of view. I think in terms of the Raila endorsement, it's not an endorsement. What I think, when you escort somebody who's simply alleged, you're a lawyer, he's a party leader, one of his members is under a certain arena of allegations, and he takes him to the police station, does not mean you endorse a comment. I think you have to look at it. We all go all the time whenever we are called for to record statements.
Like Kalonzo went to court for Ngilu.
Yes, absolutely. I that day is just that I was in Manzoni the 23rd of October, and it was also celebrating my 40th birthday. I probably would have been at Kilimani police station with George. It's no big deal. But if the consequences finally find that his intention was to cause mayhem, then the law will take its course from that point of view.
But you get the question of perception. Why go there? Yes, you're standing in solidarity, but perception is it's an endorsement that you're coming to support this person who's accused, as opposed to stay away from the matter if he's found guilty or otherwise.
It's a question of semantics. Just let me finish also.
just
It's a question of semantics. You see, when you decide, it's up to you how you want to take on because there's been this charade of victimization also on the part of the Code Coalition. It's Aladwa, you're Swift today. If it's Korea, there's an uneven application of the law. We've seen it, and therefore you as a leader, you need to give the gravitas to say that we will stand with the law, but against any abuse of the process. But then ultimately, I think it's something I've said in the past. We've dealt with political violence in a good way by trying at least to have interventions either at a national or international level. What we have not dealt with severely in this country is things called political hooliganism, where people can think it is right to go and disrupt the rally of your adversary, where they think it is right to always talk about this foreskin. I don't know what the law of foreskin has to do with I mean, they always talk about it from a certain area. You know, it's just immoral. I think you should just have a sense of decorum. Just end that speech. Well, I mean, particularly all the people who talk about this foreskin are apparently are men. I don't know why it's bothering
So what's
them.
the message that needs to be sent? What needs to happen?
What we need to do is now the DPP and the organs that are charged with the security of this country to start taking political hooliganism, which is also manifests itself in terms of the speech, very, very harsh, very, very tough. You know, I see instances where people just come in Mombasa and disrupt the rally of another person or humiliate somebody, and there's no action. So I sometimes call the county commissioner and ask, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I think we need to show that once you come and you disrupt your opponent's rally, you do something to your opponent, we will arrest you, we will charge you, and eventually even we will not just be charging those young people who are causing that violence. Let the Electoral Commission, when it comes to enforcement of electoral practice, rules and regulations, really back candidates who participate in certain acts of hate speech or incitement.
I have 1 minute. I want to give 30 seconds. However, on the Tanzania elections.
But during the burial of the wife of Gatu Kahengeri in Thika, Raila Odinga said in words, not accompanying, he said in words that what Aladwa, and he called him by name, what Aladwa said, I know you're in the US, then you had not come back, maybe you missed it.
Carry on, there's only 1 minute.
He said that what Aladwa said was, if elections are stolen, and if they will be stolen again, that consequences can occur. That is an endorsement. It's not about a company. And what the point I was making, and I still have to make this point, it is for this country, it is for the better and for our future. It does not matter the ranking, the stage, or state at which one stands. If I, as a senator, if him, as a court leader, can face this country and make those kind of remarks, and endorse somebody who is calling for bloodshed in this country, then he is dead wrong, and we cannot go that way. Now, on the Tanzania elections, I believe that the country has found a new president. We wish them well. I hope that they don't go the wrong way. They can resolve. Certainly, it has been said there were lots of issues during the elections. Some may not have been satisfied. That is the nature of contestation.
Yeah.
So hopefully, and we wish them well, they can find their ground. They can resolve the issues that have been there and take their country forward. That is what we want to see for a better East Africa.
Arati, an upsurge in opposition politics, a good sign for Tanzania, briefly?
It's good, but what we are saying is that we'd want to learn also from what you saw in Tanzania. Despite the fact that the opposition was defeated in Tanzania, but there was a fair play.
You think it was fair?
It was fair, and that gives us a good reason to ask our colleagues, Kinawa Matangi, that let them be prepared to have better exercise, transparent, elections to be done, and the winner to take it, not the loser.
All right, what are 30 seconds?
I think Tanzania is now where we were when during Kanu's time. Democracy is slowly taking root, where there's a possibility Tanzanians will vote for somebody who is not necessarily CCM and going. I think it's a good sign, and it's coming fast. Otherwise, the fast which had been a united party and you are given by your friends, and it will slowly getting off, and I think it's a good sign for that country.
It was obvious CCM was going to win, but the manner in which they won was totally an abuse of the electoral process, use of state resources. If you look at all independent apart from the ones from Africa, which always validate even the irregularities. With all the independent actors, civil society, United European Union, gave a red card to some of the areas that afford the right to free and fair elections. The universal suffrage and how it is, the manner in which it is exercised. And what happened in Zanzibar is a total travesty. I think they should stop the humiliation of the people of Zanzibar. This is the fourth time they're stealing an election from Maalim Seif. I think they should just stop it. If they have issues around the secession of Zanzibar, there are ways in which they can deal with it in a more pragmatic way, and afford the people of Zanzibar and Pemba their unalienable rights in terms of the fact that they can have a certain negotiated settlement. It's not about constantly stealing election and humiliating its people, abusing its rights. So it's far from fair. But it was obvious SCM was going to win because of the very massive advantage they enjoy. But I'm sure in the coming years, I think the opposition will be taking over in Tanzania.
All right, and that is the way it is. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ambrose Weda, who's a lawyer, also Simba Arati, the Greater North Member of Parliament, Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu Senator, and Hassan Omar, who's the Mombasa Senator. I appreciate your time and sharing your thoughts on the various topics of discussion. And thank you for watching. I will be looking at your thoughts on Twitter, as we had been welcoming them. Our Twitter handle on your screen there throughout the show. Remember to share your thoughts on the various topics. We'll continue to discuss even in the next hour on the news hour that is coming up. I'm Sophia Wanuna on behalf of the great team that made Morning Express possible. We thank you for watching, but don't go away. News hour is coming up.